Craig, welcome to Shop Talk Express.
Thanks, Dan. It's good to talk to you, and good to see you again.
So, as you know, we're very interested in developments in the Middle East, or perhaps we could focus in on the Gulf Cooperation Council area. You know, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. You spent a lot of time over the years working in that part of the world, and you've just come back from a project there and some visits. Perhaps you could tell us a bit about what you did.
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Yeah, it's certainly a very interesting part of the world, and probably would we refer to it as the home of oil. So we went over there. We were really lucky. We did a tour through the UAE and Oman, and had the chance to stop and look at some of the latest developments out there. So, we had a good look at the ADNOC sites in the UAE, and obviously Emirat, who's one of our key customers. ENOC to see what they were up to, and then we travelled over the border into Oman to see Umco, who also one of our customers who are doing some really interesting things down there, and obviously in that context had a look at Al Mahar and Shell in Oman, and it was a really insightful trip to see what people are up to over there.
I'm jealous.
It was warm.
Yeah, absolutely. Thinking of warm, what's the role of extreme weather in these markets?
Dan, that's a really good question, because often we sit in our jumpers as you and I are today, and you have to consider that in that part of the world, at least 9 months of the year, it's really, certainly for you and I, too hot to go out. You're up into almost 50 degrees. The humidity is very high, and they're all by and large attended markets. So what's happening is that people are turning up in their air-conditioned cars, and they're reluctant to get out of them for the obvious reasons. And they can be served at the pump, they can stay in their cars, they can pay, and in order to get them out of their cars, the offer needs to be really, really compelling, and you've got to work much harder if you really want to make your kind of shop food and services offer relevant and profitable.
And are they doing that? I mean, just in terms of best practice and adopting global best practice, do you see a lot of that?
Yeah. I mean, as a, I don't want to generalize, of course, but what we see is that the companies in that part of the world they're really keen to embrace what's hot, what's latest, and anything that will help them drive their businesses. And so they're very good at looking outwards and saying, okay, what can we see across the world? And that's not just in terms of format. So, you see really good food concepts, you see convenience concepts, you see services, but also that embracing of digital technology. What will help people through their shopping mission, and they're all busy testing dark stores and drive-throughs and loyalty apps, and it's really impressive to see the adoption of latest and best practice.
Well, we've certainly seen a lot of that. Thinking about the market and the role that forecourts play, do they play an interesting role in the market as a whole?
Yeah, they don't have the, perhaps what I would describe as the history of convenience retail that we've seen it certainly in Western Europe and the US for many years, that kind of forecourt store has been building its profile, and now we see it moving into a new generation with food service. I think we saw that very clearly, both through that excellent interview with Euro Garages, and also the site visits in Ireland that you've been sharing. I mean, that's clearly started to become more important now. In the Middle East, that connection with the forecourt shop or food or services is much less. I mean, if you look at Saudi Arabia, where the market is opening up enormously, lots and lots of those sites have no store at all. So in a lot of the markets, that they're coming from a very different position, and you're still trying to convince your consumers that it's got validity and it's a good place to stop and buy something, or whether that's store or convenience or grocery or food.
And it's a very interesting, and I guess this is a part of the world that you enjoy working in, Craig, and you're optimistic about, in terms of what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, I'm super optimistic, because they, again, it's a terrible generalization, but they want to be the best in the world, and they're working very hard to become the best in the world. Our work with Umco, Oman Oil, is interesting because they're testing lots of exciting things. Ramsey, who has opened a cashierless store. They're testing home delivery, they're testing drive-through, they're enhancing their loyalty app, and all of that is exciting developments, both within the company, but also for the consumers that they serve.
So next trip, I'd like to get an invite, if that's all right.
Well, you'll be very welcome, Dan.
Craig, thanks for talking to us today.
My pleasure. Nice to see you.